Yo, this is William Tyrone Toms, co-founder of Rec, Visionary 2. You are now locked in to the city's island. Let's go. You know, for me, the way I grew up, I was a kid who was always in one way or another kind of looking for like a safe space to just be myself. You know, too hood for some of these white kids I went to high school with, but I was way too artsy for some of the hood kids that I grew up with. Being a talented kid, I always just needed a place to just be myself. And over time, my friends and I started throwing shows that turned into concerts and traditional venues. But as we were working with so many artists, we kept coming back to this idea that all the best acts that we really loved felt like they needed to go to New York or LA to be successful. We know the resources are here. We know that the strategies are available. So why can't people do it in Philly? We built the space here in North Philly, putting up backdrops, creating recording studios, throwing all these workshops to educate folks. It was just like, this is it, man. I think we found something special. Once we really started to build our audience and started to build our membership program, we knew that we found something that could grow to be something super impactful. The early days was a challenge, man. It was a little early when it comes to this whole like resource sharing wave, right? Uber has been so successful that they've almost normalized getting in a car with a stranger. Same thing with Airbnb. So as I had this vision back in 2014 and I started telling people, to be honest, a lot of people didn't get it. Being a kid who studied communications in college and studied economics, I really saw where the future was going and just started to invest everything that I had into it. We found a lot of talented people that believed in what we believed in. We just figured it out, man. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know how to actually, you know, build a proper business. We didn't know how to build a scalable model. So it was one of those things where we decided to just take a leap of faith and jump and learn how to build the wings on the way down. So I'm working at the marketing agency, and then at night we're building Broadsheet Music Group, which then became Rec Philly. And yeah, man, it was just a grind. It was, how do we just make the most out of every 24 hours we get? So a lot of people don't know this, man, but I never actually graduated college, you know what I mean? I got to the very end, my last semester, you know, got in a little trouble out there, and they made me sit down and come home for a couple of semesters. And in that time of coming home, before I could even go back to college, I ended up getting recruited to work for a marketing agency. So before I knew it, I had clients like Ice Cube, Shady Records, and Eminem. And I made that decision right then and there. I was like, why go back, right? Ain't nothing for me out in Western PA. So I'm working at the marketing agency, and then at night we're building Broadsheet Music Group, which then became Rec Philly. And yeah, man, it was just a grind. It was, how do we just make the most out of every 24 hours we get? Honestly, state property. State property was one of the biggest influences in my young life, man. To see guys that look like me, to see like Freeway with the beard, who look like my pops, to be able to sell clothing with their branding on it, to, you know, obviously sell out shows with their branding on it, to be able to see guys like Dame Dash, who actually were making films, which is something I've always been super passionate about. Those were the guys that told me that this shit was actually like obtainable for someone who looked like me. Because before that, all the entrepreneurs that I kind of saw in the media were the Steve Jobs, the Bill Gates. So as like a young kid from the hood to be able to kind of like navigate that space and think that I can do what Steve Jobs did, that's a little less realistic. But then once I saw Freeway, Beans, you know what I mean, Petey Crack do some things that I was inspired by, that really shifted my perspective to be like, yo, you can actually build a business and make money exploring things that you actually know and are familiar with. But at that point, just something clicked, and I was just like, I could work for myself if I really want to. I remember, I think one of the first times I kind of like took a step back and was like, yo, I know how to make money, was actually in like 4th grade. I get out to this environment where I'm around kids who got in-ground pools. I'm around kids who got the whole 2 parents, they crushing it, they going on all these field trips and this and that. And it was one of those things where I knew that like my parents didn't have the bread to put me in the same situations that a lot of my friends who didn't look like me could. So I was like, all right, well, how do I make a way to be able to still go on that field trip to the Franklin Institute? I was figuring out how to battle kids for Pokemon cards from young. Yo, so I mean, if I'm being honest, like my grandmother was a huge inspiration for me as an entrepreneur, building cleaning businesses for herself to make money, cooking, selling platters, that whole nine. Really to be able to put me through school and things like that. That's the entrepreneurship background that I actually got to see in real life. But all the rest of my inspiration came from TV, man. Watching Diddy, I was watching Russell Simmons, Master P. Like these were my mentors. They just happened happen not to know it. We don't know everything. We don't know most things. I made a lot of mistakes, bro. So I think in the earliest of days, man, one of the biggest mistakes I think we made early on was asking for permission. You know, when we got to a certain space, we felt like we had a great idea. And immediately we were just like, yo, let's go to some of the people that are a little ahead of where we are doing things in the city, and let's see if they think that our idea is a good idea. As soon as we started doing that though, and we didn't get the feedback that we wanted, a little bit of confidence kind of got taken away, because we're just like, damn, we thought we had something, but the people who are ahead of us don't see it. And then we started to feed into that as if like that was important. Mistakes are not a bad thing, you know? We got to a point where we actually made one of our core values of our company, make more mistakes, but never the same one.
Yeah, but I don't do this shit for nothing. No, not at all.